Welcome to Thoughts on Education. This is Dr. Kaleem Khan. He's an expert in data analytics, research, and customer experience management, and he has been the director of Rizvi Institute of Management Studies and Research for the past 10 years. Welcome, Dr. Kaleem. So, for the first question, you've held key positions at education institutes throughout your professional career. So, what are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector?
Fundamentally learning. The challenge with the current set of students that keep coming in, especially the new generation, and this must be cliche but yet worth saying, is that they keep you on your toes. And for the type of technology advent that we've had, and for the type of content that is available on technology as of now, as teachers we've evolved. And we carry this very strong sense of responsibility that if something is available on free space, and I were to talk the same thing that is available on free space, my sessions are not needed anymore. And therefore, what I need to offer in my classroom is something that is not only contemporary, but the content is not available, and the content is a differential. So I think what binds us on education together is our own learning, and obviously the joy of disseminating the same and adding value to people who listen to us.
Okay. So being the director of Rizvi Institute of Management and Research, what is your philosophy of leadership? Like, how would you describe your leadership style?
Okay, that's interesting. So, there have been thousands and thousands of quotes and literature available on leadership. See, our approach to leadership is different. I wouldn't call myself as a leader of the institute. I would just place myself as somebody who's been given the responsibility to fill in certain shoes, sit on a particular seat, and carry out certain responsibilities. So for me, the entire onus of leadership is ensuring that a responsibility is taken, a responsibility is thought of, a responsibility is executed, and in the process of doing all this, we've added value to every touch point that we've come in touch with. So that touch point could be a student, that touch point could be a parent, that touch point could be my staff, that touch point could be my students, that touch point could be my trustees, the touch point could be corporates who recruit my students, the touch point could be all possible governing authorities that manage our learning scenario. And I think it's responsibility more than anything else, a responsibility that we make sure that we add value to all the touch points.
Okay. So, what do you think should be the institute's top priority over the next 10 years?
See, I've always believed that it's not only next 10 years. I think the top priority of an educational institute, and we do this in total quality management and we do this in analytics as well, in different formats. But I think the fundamental priority, the fundamental job is a very clear micro pre-post analysis. Is a very, very clear micro pre-post analysis. And what I mean by a micro pre-post analysis is the type of awareness, knowledge, confidence, the packet that the student is pre a session and what he is post a session. And if I were to monitor, evaluate and deliver a pre-post differential on every micro analysis, I don't need to bother about my micro results.
Correct. Okay. So, what do you see as your institute's greatest strength?
Rigor. Nothing but rigor. I'm a very strong believer of the fact that nothing worthwhile ever was achieved minus rigor. And I think we've been extremely rigor. No, 1 minute. Rigor does not mean blind rigor or mad rigor. Obviously, it's got to do with planned rigor. So when I say rigor, it's obviously planned rigor. But the biggest strength of my institute is rigor. Rigor beginning with what I put in, rigor beginning with what my faculty members put in, rigor with what my admin staff does in, and making sure that the student, the last mile student, goes through the rigor of the course. If the course becomes a case of easy entry, easy exit, it's not worth it. And if the course becomes a case of I did not apply myself to get that document that I wanted for myself, which is that degree, I don't think we've done service to anybody in the long run. So strength, I think I would place it one word: rigor.
Okay. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you see, both for like higher education in general and for RISV Institute of Management and Research specifically?
In general, is the obsolescence of the curriculum that we are offering. I think authorities here, we are under the gamut of a lot of authorities. There's not as much of a flexibility as we can. We make use of whatever we can. But the fact remains that our biggest challenging times to come would be three. Is the course in lines with what the industry wants? Two, that's a small feature. The bigger feature is that is the course planning for the next decade, which means it's always about, is the syllabus contemporary as of now? Why are we not getting into a philosophy which says, am I going to be teaching something which will add value 5 years down the line? So it just cannot be teaching for tomorrow, right? And I think that is the biggest challenge that higher education has to take up onto the mantle. Unfortunately, a lot of discussion is happening on the pedagogy part of it. So the advent of technology coming in and all that stuff coming in, I'm okay with that, that's fine. But I would very strongly suggest that the entire pedagogy part of it and the advent of technology to that is peripheral. The core and primary will always be the content. Is the content worth contemporary? Everybody's talking. No, I'm saying, is it worth for a student to pass out and look at myself and say 5 years down the line, yeah, it was worthwhile doing that course 5 years back. And if you look at the percentage of students who are going in for further education after a point in time, and if that percentage and chunk is big, I keep reflecting two thoughts. Is it because the student is indulging into continuous learning? Or is it because we failed the student by not offering him what would be value to him 10 years down the line? It's very easy to say somebody is continually learning. I think we need to take the onus and say, perhaps we didn't teach what was valuable 10 years down the line.
Okay. And for RISV specifically, any like biggest challenge that you see?
Okay. Content obviously will be there.
Right.
You see, we've got mandate-driven challenge with so many authorities dictating so many things. Flexibility is a strong issue. And our biggest challenge is flexibility of the conduct of everything that we are in.
Okay. So, when it comes to your students, so are there any suggestions you would like to give to the current youth and aspiring students?
Come out of the entire nonsense of going to an institute and asking, what is the CTC? I've seen people with 60% marks and 70% marks coming for admission and asking, what is the CTC? In a batch of 120, approximately if 10 times, 20 times number of students apply, it hurts to know what is the percentage of students who come and ask, what do you teach me? What do I specialize in? What will I be worth when I leave out? What is the differential that I will be as a person? And what is it most importantly that I need to do before I enter into this course? I still have some people asking the first two questions, but I've rarely had somebody coming and asking me, do I need to do something before I enter the course? It's surprising. You're going to spend one of the most important years of your life. It's surprising that you're going to spend the biggest amount of your education on this course and you want to come unprepared. You know, I for somebody who joins a fitness center, even before he goes in, purchases a track, purchases a t-shirt, goes and picks up a gym bag, picks up the water bottles. He's identified what's the route, what's the time that I pick up. They do that for a damn 2,000 rupee per month investment. Right? Why? Because you foresee a physical shape coming up. Here, we are talking of a brain shape coming up. And none of them want to get into a pre-post exercise. It's funny, sad, unfortunate.
A good answer. So, so when you first came to RISV Institute of Management and Research, what was your vision for the college? And has it evolved over time? And how far along in implementing that vision are you?
So that's a good 20 years back when I joined in, took over as director a decade back. So you see, one belief has remained the same, which I spoke of, the value in terms of a pre-post. That has remained the same, but that's from a student point of view, which is micro. Macro, the vision has been very clear that we shall not falter on the value-based education that we offer. Value here has three meanings. Value in terms of employability or going entrepreneurial, which becomes content value. Second is value in terms of the character of a person. I will be doing disservice to the course and all my stakeholders if I churn out an excellently competent, content-driven master's MBA, but I'm not able to mold him with characters of ethics, morals, values. So value here is a second meaning. And the third meaning of the word value is that when my student walks out, he believes that he was part of an institute that exhibited values itself. If I as an institute am lacking on values, I don't think I'll be able to fulfill the two values that I promised myself. And I think my vision statement is very clear on the value, one word, but offering three meanings.
What are some plans that you are currently or will be designing for the Institute's international affairs and or students?
See, international students, we've got a restriction because we're affiliated to University of Mumbai. I really can't get into tie-up with international institutes or have international students coming in. But international students, in terms of students getting international opportunities for jobs, recruitments, it's still going on. It's going on, and we're tapping the alumni network internationally placed for that big time. So that's the only thing that I can offer. Keeping in mind the types of rules and regulations are into, I can't go beyond it.
Right. And if I were to ask you, so how do you tend to establish a healthy relation and environment in your institute?
Trust. Does my staff trust me that they've got a safe career here? Does my faculty trust me that they've got a good intellectual career out over there? And do my students trust me that post 2 years they're going to walk out with a difference? The moment the trust part of it comes in, and the moment my students trust that we will do good to them. See, it's all about trust at the end of the day. And you don't build a healthy environment by talking big or by having massive infrastructures. The fundamental essence of it is trust. And I believe when we take very strong pride in the fact that we trust our students on certain issues that we want to trust them on. Fundamentally, it is discipline, it's ethics. It's about making sure that they hold hands onto us, onto the rigor that we do, and they trust us on the fact that we deliver good stuff. Simultaneously, it's a vice versa trust that we expect either ways.
Okay. So being the director of RISV, Institute of Management and Research, how do you strategize about the key programs and plans for the marketing and administration of your institute?
See, we run a vanilla program, which is the MMS, Masters in Management Studies, which is affiliated to University of Mumbai. So we have only one program affiliated to University of Mumbai with an intake of 120. So everything happens under the gamut of the University of Mumbai, which means the DTE conducts the entrance exam, the admissions happens through that. So we do not have any allied programs where we market or we do anything. Since everything is rooted to the CAP round, things are taken care of on that front at least. But a very strong feature of our entire process has been that most of our students are word of mouth, and most of our students, I've got a legacy of family generation students, something like 12 kids from the same family, and the same family would be extended cousins and brothers and siblings and some married here and there, and that's a very proud feeling because that justifies my concept of trust.
Right. So the education systems in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently. So in your experience, what can an inbound student gain from studying here in your institute?
See, an inbound student gains, the most important thing is logical thinking. We've taken the onus of education on logical thinking. See, what has happened in the Indian education system is while there is rigor, there's also what is called as the rote method of learning. And that actually is damaging. So take for example, and I keep saying this very often, take for example a paper on stats or a paper on OR, and the way it is taught makes 2 columns, step 1, step 2, step 3, UJ, VJ, BJ, CJ. And I'm sure a lot of people who listen and done this must be laughing it out. That's road. We tend to go that way. This is step 1, this is step 2, step 3. We've come out of it. We very strongly, and I've been advocating all my teachers that we come out of it. And we fundamentally get into, the what of the content, the why of the content, and the how of the content. And I'm very clear on the fact that we don't go to the how of the content till the why of the content is very clear. And it is only when the why is clear, the logical part of it comes in. And I'll be very, very happy if my student sits up and asks me in every class, why the hell are we doing it? And the reason why you pay the fees is to ask, why the hell are we doing it? So fundamentally for me, what an inbound student gets in over here with me is logical thinking and is whole brain thinking.
Okay, I think we're done here, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, pleasure. Thanks for listening to me.
Oh yes,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thank you.